Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're cracking open a truly remarkable biblical blueprint. Listen, guys, if you're part of this new generation stepping up and you've got that deep desire to be a faithful Christian father and leader, well, this one is literally for you. Think of these as your marching orders. We're going to break down exactly how to lead your future families, your churches, and your communities with both unyielding strength and, crucially, a tender heart. Let's get into it.
Our source material lays out 5 rapid-fire commands from 1 Corinthians 16, followed by one brilliant overarching guiding principle. We'll be looking at the call to courage, staying awake, standing firm, acting like men, finding true strength, and ultimately letting love lead the way.
Kicking things off with Section 1, the call to courage, facing the giants. To really grasp what kind of bravery we're talking about here, our source points us to the ultimate inciting incident of young courage. I want you to picture that ancient battlefield, right? The Philistine giant, Goliath, is literally throwing down the gauntlet. Meanwhile, the older, seasoned military guys, they're cowering in their tents. But then young David steps up. He looks his critical older brothers right in the eye, and he asks this incredibly piercing question: is there not a cause? It's a total game changer. When the culture around you is intimidating, you don't just shrink back. You recognize the higher cause and you step forward.
So guys, here is the absolute core proposition for any man aspiring to lead. You've got to establish this beautiful, almost paradoxical balance. The text says we must be clothed with unretreating courage and driven with unfailing love. True leadership, and specifically fatherhood, requires you to be fiercely protective and totally uncompromising on truth, while at the exact same time possessing a deeply tender, loving heart. You just can't have one without the other.
Moving on to Section 2. Stay awake and alert, the watchman's duty.
So the Apostle Paul's first specific command is simple, but man, is it urgent. He says, watch ye. Now, the original Greek word used here is Gregorio. What's fascinating is that he isn't talking about physical sleep at all. This requires a deliberate, determined spiritual awakening. He's writing to people who are essentially sleepwalking through life, completely deadened to what's happening around them. If you want to protect your future family as a watchman, you just can't sleepwalk. You have to wake up and be highly aware of the spiritual climate.
Check out this incredibly practical checklist pulled from across the New Testament. As a watchman, you've got a lot of ground to cover. You have to watch out for the adversary, the one prowling like a roaring lion. You got to be hyper alert to the subtle creep of temptation and that silent killer of apathy and indifference where you just kind of get smug and complacent. Plus, you've got to guard against false teachers, remain super watchful in prayer, and live with an eager expectation of the Lord's return. If you aren't actively watching these perimeters, your family is totally vulnerable.
Okay, Section 3, stand firm in faith, holding your ground. It is surprisingly easy to misunderstand this command to stand fast. Faith isn't just some static list of ecclesiastical facts you memorized back in Sunday school. No, it is active confidence. It's the continuous, steadfast act of actually believing God. It is this dynamic posture that gives you the grip to keep your footing and hold your ground against literally any cultural or spiritual assault that might come against your home.
To drive this home, look at the original Greek of 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 12. It doesn't just casually say fight the fight of faith. It explicitly says fight the good fight of the faith. There's a specific body of truth, a specific reality that the adversary is constantly trying to wrest away from us. As a leader, standing firm means you are actively fighting to hold on to that specific truth for the sake of the people you're leading.
Let's jump to Section 4, acts like men, the call to maturity.
Here Paul fires out this distinctly military command to quit you like men. Now this is super interesting because it appears only here in the entire New Testament, but it perfectly echoes those bold Old Testament mandates to be of good courage. It literally means to play a man's part in the battle, to strike with all the force of your spiritual muscles. Basically, it's a direct command to step out of spiritual boyhood. You gotta stop letting other people fight your battles, step up, and take real responsibility for your post.
But acting like a man isn't just a switch you flip. It involves a deliberate progression. If we use Ephesians 4 as our guide, it looks like this. Step 1, you are no longer children, meaning you aren't easily deceived or tossed around by every new wind of doctrine or whatever the latest cultural trend is. Step 2, you learn to speak the truth, but, and this is absolutely crucial, you do it in love. And step 3, you actively grow up into a complete, mature man in Christ. That right there is the exact roadmap to the kind of maturity that true fatherhood demands.
Which brings us to section 5, be strengthened by God, the passive power.
I love this part because there's a fascinating little grammatical secret here that should honestly take a massive weight off your shoulders, especially as a young man trying to figure all of this out. Notice that be strengthened is actually the only passive verb in the entire text. Why? Well, because telling a weak man to just be strong is, frankly, a complete waste of words. You cannot merely muster up spiritual strength on your own. It is something the Lord must do within you. Your job? Your job is simply to position yourself to receive that grace.
Listen, guys, human flesh, your own limited, natural capacity, will always eventually fail under the sheer weight of leading a family. It's just inevitable. But the strong spirit, which is granted by God when He strengthens you on the inside, that actually overcomes the natural weakness of the flesh. Think of it like a heavy-duty engine. That internal strength is the only engine that can power a faithful father through decades of selfless service.
And finally, section 6, let love lead, the heart of a father.
Up to this point, we've essentially had commands barked at us, like a drill sergeant marshaling troops for war, right? Wake up, stand firm, act like men, get strong. But then we get this command, let all your things be done with charity, or love. This is the essential softening principle of the whole playbook. Yes, your family absolutely needs your strength and your courage, but they must absolutely feel your love. Love is the atmosphere in which all of your strength is supposed to operate. Our source throws up a huge caution flag here about two very dangerous extremes. On one side, if you have all this love but absolutely no backbone to stand for the truth, you just wash away into weak sentimentalism. You're not going to be able to protect your family from the things that actually matter. But on the flip side, if you're taking a militant stand on everything without an ounce of love, you become what the source calls an ugly theologian. Crusty, harsh, and totally alienating to the very people you're supposed to be leading. You have to hold sound doctrine and love side by side, no compromises. So as you step into your God-given role as a father, a husband, and a leader, the playbook is laid out plainly right in front of you. Let's be real. The world doesn't need any more passive men, and it certainly doesn't need more tyrants. It needs watchmen. It needs men of deep maturity. So the ultimate question is, will you answer the call to lead the next generation with both unretreating courage and unfailing love? Take a minute and really think on that as you prepare to take your post. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time.